Hey guys, it's Cody and Eric. We're here with episode 7 of our podcast. Today we're at the Brooks Mine with the founder of Underground Miners, Chris Murley. Chris is going to go over some stuff with us today and explain about how they got started with the mine, their visions were when they started it, and we're going to talk about the 100-year-old Wickham locomotive today. Cody, you take it.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start off today, Chris, with just give us a brief history of the Brooks Mine, how it got started, who started it, and when it started.
Sure, yeah, so, do you want me to hold it?
Sure.
The Brooks Mine was conceived in 1900, maybe late 1800s by Reese Brooks. He was a local businessman, owned a couple coal companies. He worked his way up through the positions in a coal mine to eventually be a mine owner. And most of everybody in the valley here, Carbondale all the way down to Mackinac, or Forest City all the way down to Mackinac, if you didn't work for the railroad or industry, you're a coal miner. You know, anthracite is what built Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, Oliphant, Nanticoke, Carbondale, Forest City. All these towns were built on anthracite. And if it wasn't for the anthracite coal, the cities wouldn't be here. So, everybody had family members that worked in the mine, and Reese Brooks said, I think it would be good for people to be able to see what our family members, go through every day working in the mines. So 2 veins of coal outcropped here in the park, and the park was already established at that point.
What are the 2 veins of coal here?
The Dunmore number 2 and the Dunmore number 3 vein. And they come together in a fault right here, so they're really close together. Usually they're about 75 feet apart, but right here they're only about 6 feet apart, or 4 feet apart.
Awesome.
So, he said, let's put a tour mine in. So this was actually the very first tour mine in the state of Pennsylvania. It was put in and finished in 1902, and people going through the park could walk in and see what an actual coal mine was like.
I was just telling Eric the other day, too, that Luna Park was just across the gorge here from Naog, so that was 1906 to 1916, so I'm sure they had a ton of foot traffic come through here, too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yep, so let's see, so the mine was put in 1902. It closed in the late 30s until the late 40s. It was retimbered in the 1950s by Moffett Coal Company, made safe again, opened up again, and it ran until 1975 when it was closed, mainly because the state enacted the law that you have to have a second opening. So there was never another way out of the mine. You came in the portal and you went back out the portal. So the state mine inspector said, you got to put a second opening in. And at that point, the idea had already been started on the Lackawanna Mine Tour on the other side of the valley. So they decided, why put money into the Brooks Mine when we're making a big colliery slope available for people to see on the other side of the valley. So it was closed in 1975 and stayed closed until 2022 when we got the idea to reopen it.
That's awesome. And also, too, didn't the International Correspondence School, we have a bunch of books in historical societies about the different mining practices. Did they use this too as like a learning thing for the engineers too?
They did, or very early on in the early 1900s, they did mining engineering training and just student work in the mine here. Yep.
That's awesome. And how did you guys end up going about coming up with the idea to reopen the Brooks Mine? Like, who would you get in contact, or how'd the idea come up?
Sure. Well, we were all just hanging out down at Trax Bar down here at the Radisson Station, having lunch one day, and on a weekend. And I asked the guys, I'm like, "You guys ever see the Brooks Mine up at Naog Park?" And like, no. So we took a drive up here and we stood in front of the gate and we were looking at it. And I used to come up here in the '80s when I was just a little kid with my grandparents because they lived just down the road. Nice. And we'd ride the little roller coaster and the little train around the thing and swim in the pool. And I'd come in here and look through the gates. And back then you're told, you can go in the mines and you can go, all the way through the whole valley. And I'd look in here and say, wow, you can go in there and come out in Wilkes-Barre, but obviously not true, but that's what you think when you're a little kid. And, so I always kind of had a soft spot for it. So I brought my buddies up here and we looked at it. And I said, we should reopen that. We could, a bunch of us coal miners have coal mine experience, got a mine foreman, everything we'd need to do it. We got the technology to do it. We got the knowledge. And so I called the park first, and they're like, we've been trying to get that reopened for years, but the state won't let us open it because there's not a second opening outside. I said, well, we could take care of that too. So talked to the state mine inspectors. They gave us some guidelines and requirements. Got the permission from the city. They were all on board. So we started in March of 2022. and came in, retimbered the whole place, made it safe, and then drove the second opening outside.
That's awesome.
Here's a question for you. When you first opened the gate, did you have a vision that you were going to be where we are today with the Brooks Mine?
Absolutely not. When we opened the gate, I didn't know what we were going to find. You know, I didn't know if the place was going to be completely collapsed, what kind of shape it was going to be in. I thought, well, we'll first go in and see what it looks like, and then we'll go from there. So when we first opened the gate, I had no idea what this was actually going to turn into. And once we got inside and did our whole feasibility study and saw that the place was really in good shape, then the ideas started coming to life and said, well, we could really turn this back into something.
Yeah, it looks like I even talked to a bunch of people. I have one of the mine inspector's actual exam books at the house, and everyone always thinks that the miners were like just dumb dirt diggers back in the day. But the questions and stuff in that for figuring out your load per timber and square footage and your depth and angle of your drive and everything, like these guys in the early 1900s were like rocket scientists compared to the people that would just be working at a mill or something.
Yeah,
It's just
absolutely.
crazy.
Yep.
And I guess this model mine, even though it's a model mine, it withstood the test of time just for the amazing feat that it was that they were able to build this, and I'm sure they probably drove this in a short amount of time.
Well, in 1900, you didn't have all the tools like we do today. I mean, the stuff we use today is still from the 60s, but that was even modern compared to what they used back then. They had to use hand breast augers and, you know, and drilling machines and just hand tools to dig this thing. So that's probably why it only goes 160 feet.
Yeah.
But it's enough. You know, it's nice that it's not just a straight line. It goes in like an S-turn coming in, so you don't see back out. You don't see the daylight. And, you know, just like we always tell anybody, once you're 40 feet underground, you don't know if you're 40 feet or 400 feet, you know, if you can't see the outside.
And was it last year you guys just added the new piece up here?
We did, yeah. We put another chamber in last spring, and it connects. We just drove it in the number 2 Dunmore vein, a
We
small.
could show everybody that. Would
Oh, yeah, absolutely, okay.
So what was it when you got in here and seen that you were ready, that it was going to be savable and you were going to have tours? Did you think the future of the mine was going to look like it does now when you started working?
We didn't, you know, the nice thing about the mine is it's in the park, so you already have foot traffic coming through. So you don't have to advertise too much to get people to come here because they're already here in the park, which is absolutely great. We got a lot of people. We're getting like 300 people a day on average through the mine, which is great. But a couple weeks ago.
What was our numbers last year?
Well, up until at the end of last year, since we opened, we put 17,000 people through the mine. So
That's
it's
incredible.
yeah, and like what 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we just had our busiest day ever. We had 1,000.
Yeah, with the big boy in town.
Yeah, had like
And
1,000
the
people.
flower
through.
show.
Yeah.
People, yeah.
That's incredible.
So that was exciting. But yeah, I mean, now once we finished it and people started coming in, and we had, you know, people started seeing it. We just like coming in and telling mining stories. So I think people like coming in and listening to it. So
Awesome.
For sure.
We can't ignore the giant monstrosity behind it. It's the
oh, this thing.
yeah. Tell us about this.
So this thing, I actually just came to a realization that I've had this for half of my life now. I saved 46, and we saved this thing 23 years ago. We literally saved it the day before it was going to get cut up for scrap. It was at the Waddell breaker site in Winton, just outside Archibald, and it was put there in the 90s. Outside of they put a culvert into the side of a coal bank to make it look like a coal mine, and they had a haunted hayride around the burned down breaker. And they got this from Bauman Scrapyard up in Mayfield there to, or Childs, to put in front of it to make it look like it was coming out of the mine for the thing. And that's ultimately kind of what saved it, because at that point they were starting to scrap everything at Bauman's. Everything was half cut up at that point.
I'm right across the street there.
Okay.
Right in Mayfield Yard.
So you remember all that?
Oh, yeah. I wish I could go back in time.
Yeah, how about it? There was so much stuff there could have been saved. But, I mean, you can't save it all, I guess. But at least we saved this. So this thing ended up at the Waddell breaker site, and we just happened to go take pictures of the breaker they were, tearing down, and we saw this there. And I got that famous picture of me sitting on the thing 23 years ago, and at nighttime when we found it. And then I just said, I need that. So We went back the next day in the daytime when the scrappers were there, and I talked to them, and I said, what are you going to do with that mine locomotive that's sitting over there? And they said, we're going to cut that up too. I said, well, can we buy it off you for scrap value? And he just said, if you could come haul it away, you could take it. Cool. Okay. So we showed up the next day with a rollback, and the guy, the scrappers, when we pull in, he's like, well, what are you guys doing? I'm like, oh, we're here to get the mine locomotive. You didn't cut it up, did you? He's like, no, but out of all the years we've told people to come back, so you got to save this, you got to save this, you got to save this. And he's like, you guys are the first ones that have ever actually come back for something. So then he said, how would you like a couple mine cars to go behind that? I said, well, sure. So he took us to a pile of mine cars. We got a couple of them too. But anyway, so we saved this thing then, went to my dad's house in Factoryville, and we just put it on a piece of track there. And at that point, 2002 is when the number 9 mine opened in Lansford. We were doing a little bit of work down there, helping them with track work and some stuff. And their electrical guy down there, I told him that we had a mine motor because I was playing with theirs down there. And he's like, you have one? Well, we could probably make that thing go. I said, really? Because it was just a rusty thing. We were just going to use it as lawn art. And he's like, yeah, let me come up and take a look at it. So he came up and opened up the motor, the actual motor in the end of it here. And he's like, wow, this thing's in great shape. They must have just rebuilt the motor on it before they put it to bed, And the brushes on the electric motor weren't even worn in yet.
Oh, wow.
So he's like, holy smokes, we could have this thing going. So I ran to the airport, and we had a couple half-dead airplane batteries there. So I grabbed a couple batteries, and we wired it up with jumper cables. And in 30 minutes from 30 minutes of dropping it on the track to hooking it up to batteries, we had it moving down a 30-foot piece of track with just hooking wires up to batteries. So that was pretty cool. I mean, the gearboxes were in great shape. We opened them up. There's a motor in the back that goes to a worm drive gearbox on this axle, and then a drive shaft to a worm drive gearbox on this axle. And we opened the gearboxes up, and they still had the oil in them. The gears were still shiny and no rust on any of the internals of everything. U-joints are in pretty good shape. Nothing mechanically is broken on it. So we really lucked out with I don't even know why they picked this one to take up to the haunted hayride thing, but whatever they did, they picked this one, and for some reason, here it is. But yeah.
So I was fortunate enough to be here on Tuesday when we brought it down.
Yes.
And Chris made a statement that you bought it 20 years ago and you wanted it to be underground again.
Yeah.
You never thought that it would be underground, and here we are today.
And here we are. Yeah, we've always been thinking about, since we had it, it needs to get back underground someday, somewhere. But it wasn't really possible to Lackawanna Mine Tour because the way they had things set up there with the braking cables that go through the car, there was, until just a couple of years ago, a big tower between the tracks that the weights went on for that, so you wouldn't be able to get this thing past it, because that was really the only option, because the number 9 mine tour and the Pioneer Tunnel Mine Tour, that we've done some work at both of them, the track gauge is different. That's a 42-inch gauge track, and this is 36, so it wouldn't run down at either of those two places. So we just kind of ran it around at my dad's house. We laid down 800 feet of track there and ran it around outside a little railroad up until 2008 when he moved, and then I just took it to the airport, and it was sitting next to my airplane hangar till 2021 when we decided let's make the thing resurrect it again and make it go. Yeah. And then we did the Brooks mine, and when we started doing the project here and we started doing the timber work, and I said, we're going to make sure we set these timbers with just enough room so the Whitcomb can get by, because we're going to bring this thing in here someday. That was kind of always the plan. We just didn't make that very public because we didn't know when, if, or how it was going to work. Mainly because the track just kind of stopped outside the portal when we put it in, and there's not enough room to bring the rollback around to turn, to back it down the hill. But we talked to the park and said, we want to bring a mine motor in to display it, but we're going to have to move some of those big boulders and turn the track and bring it outside. And they're like, you guys do whatever you want there and make it so you can keep putting your exhibits on. So
the board here at the park has been fantastic to us too.
Oh yeah, the Scranton Recreation Authority has been great. That's who runs the park here, and they are absolutely fantastic to work with since day one. I mean, since the very first phone call of say, hey, can we open the Brooks mine, up until now, they're great.
Awesome. And the underground miners have owned the Wickham longer than Richmond-Dale Coal Company did, correct?
That's true, yeah. Yeah, so the Richmond-Dale mine, so they got this thing from Whitcomb in 1926. It was built for them. And the mine closed in 1945, so whatever that is, 19 years, and we've had it for 23. I mean, it went, the mine went through a couple different names. It was Richmondale, and then Lackawanna Anthracite Mining Company, and then Pearl, and then something else. There was like five different companies that kind of it went through, but it was all the same mine.
We brought this here on Tuesday. This was the first time that it was underground in 100 years.
Well, no, because I mean, it would have been underground in 45 probably, but I can't say that for definitive because I don't know what happened to it after Richmondale closed.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have gone to some independent operation and been used, but who knows? It could have just sat at Richmondale abandoned until, John Bauman went buying up all that mining stuff for his collection. So I don't know from
It's
45
been
until
50,
when I went to the scrapyard.
then.
Yeah. Oh, at least definitely
least
50 years.
yeah.
And then, the other thing is, how do we know it came from the Richmondale mine? That's a good one. A friend of ours actually has all the Whitcomb records, and the data plate for the locomotive we didn't have. It was somebody robbed it off the thing years ago. Probably one of the miners took it off there the first time it went underground. But the data plate for the motor itself was still on it.
Oh, awesome.
So through the records, a buddy of mine went through all of the, looking at it. He's like, this is something from the 1920s or early 30s. He's a whiz with Whitcomb locomotives. And he said, let me go through the records we have and see when they were delivered to, when one of them went to an anthracite mine, and we'll go from there. So he found two of them that were delivered to the Richmondale colliery, and they were the only two Whitcomb battery locomotives that ever went to anything in the northern field here. And then he got looking at the build sheets for them, found the motor, listed the serial number, and that matched up with the serial number on this motor here. So we can definitively say it was that one. And the other one, the second one we found was half cut up in Bauman's scrapyard. I can send you a picture of that too. But yeah, it was upside down, and it was the frame with the wheels and the axles and the gearboxes. The sanders were off and the bumpers were off, and half cut up. And
this was actually an honor for me too, because I had the chance to run it out of the mine, and it came from a colliery 5 minutes from where I grew up and was raised. So
yeah, that's awesome.
yeah.
Growing up, I probably saw it in the junkyard. We used to always go wandering up there and everything from the drag line up by the Fifes Dam, below the O&W reservoir. And it's 100th birthday this year, right?
It is, yep. So it's pretty special to us, one, just because we rebuilt it and got it working and got it underground, but we also got it underground for its 100th birthday, and we got it underground in the Brooks mine. I mean, that's a win-win if you ask me. Yep. Yeah.
That's good. So if we could just show the mine around, you could maybe explain to some of the stuff we added.
Yeah, sure. So I guess we could first take a walk. It all had to happen with this escapeway up here. So this is the other way out. If the portal were to collapse right now, we're crawling out there. This is through the Dunmore number 2 vein. It's about 32 inches high. It's 45 feet long to outside, about 8 feet wide, 6 to 8 feet wide. We used 65 sticks of powder to blow this out, 35 tons of coal. It took 4 days to do it. So I think we can say we were probably the first people to underground mine coal in Scranton in probably 75 years. And then we donated all the coal to Casey Casa Coal Company because we couldn't sell it. So they just came and hauled it away. Some of it we actually used. They only took probably, I'd say, a third of it, and the rest of it we used for filling mine cars and for some of the displays and stuff here. And then over here we have our number 1 drag chamber. This is what we just did last spring. So we put this chamber in and then ran a crosscut over to the airway or the escapeway. And up there we have a drag. So this is a drag bucket. This is the drag machine. And this runs on compressed air. It's basically a double drum winch. So it's got clutches here. When you pull this handle, it pulls the bucket towards us. When you pull this handle, it pulls the bucket back. So the one cable goes up along the props here, up to a pulley in the face, and then up to the back of the bucket. So it'll actually pull the bucket back up. And this is how one of the ways you'd bring coal out of a low vein working. So you got a drag, you got chain conveyors, you got shaker chutes. But this bucket just drags back and forth, and after you fire a pile of coal out, then you can, pull the bucket back up over top of the pile. It'll dig into it and drag the coal back out. Or you can shovel it from the sides in front of it. You can throw the bucket around up there. It's not that heavy. And we made a little tiny mine car here for just display purposes, so people could see that the drag would pull the coal into a coal car.
When would these have been popular in the mines? Like when would these have came around?
So these, I want to say they made great big electric ones. I think I want to say they came out around the 1920s. I'm not 100% sure on dates on some of these things, but I know this one here is from the 50s. This compressed air one, this Ingersoll.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I mean we still use these today underground, every day.
Definitely took a lot of the workload off.
Oh yeah, yeah. When we drove these chambers in here, I mean we had 7 guys up in there shoveling, and it took all day to shovel a couple cuts out.
Oh,
And
sure.
yeah. But towards the end, when we put the airway, the cross cut in up there, we actually used the drag to pull the coal out, which was great.
Awesome.
Yeah, we can go back that way if you want to show you the drill and the we got some drilling demonstrations. If you just keep going straight back through the airway here, the cross cut up here, Dale. So this is a jackleg drill over here. So here we have a couple drills set up in a coal cut pattern here, loaded up with about 10 sticks of dynamite and 8 holes. Not really loaded up, but it looks like it is. fake cut pattern. So then we also have a rock cut here in the center, and we have more coal on the bottom. So if we were going to be advancing this, the chamber this direction and taking all of it, this is what this demonstration is here, with the rock holes and the rock drill. And I ran this drill here for 4 years in a mine outside of Tamaqua, drilling rock tunnels between 2 different coal veins, between the Skidmore and the bottom split of the Mammoth. But it's a big jack leg. It's basically a jackhammer drill on a leg, and this is a big pneumatic piston. And you have a throttle on the back here. They would roll this forward. The piston comes up and lifts the drill and kind of pushes it in the hole for you, depending on what the angles are set up. But it kind of pushes it in and feeds it as you're going. You got your drill speed here. The other thing about this drill is, like you guys know about black lung disease. So coal dust bad, rock dust worse. So this has a water input here. So you always have water dripping down in the mines. So bigger mines, there'll be a ditch going along the tracks to take the water back to the slope or the shaft to be pumped out. Or it'll just run right out in this case of a drift or a tunnel. We're gonna take a small pump and throw it in that ditch. The pump's gonna pump water up and through a hose into this fitting. The drill steel has a hole through the center of it and a hole in the bit. So it actually pumps the water into the hole for you, and it just turns the dust into dirty water, which
so
also,
you don't get blowback.
yeah, you don't get the dust from it, and it cleans the hole so that the bit doesn't get stuck in there.
Awesome.
So that's that technique. You'll see a tamping stick in the hole here. So we use wooden tamping sticks for tamping the dynamite in so you don't blow yourself up with sparks. Always use a wooden one. But the other thing we use them for is a guide. So you want to make sure all your holes are parallel. So this one it is, but the weight of the drill is just hanging it down. If we lifted it up, you want to, when you're running your drill holes, you always want to have a stick in a hole so you can stand back here and look and make sure all your holes are parallel with each other. So that if they're off just a little bit out here, these holes are 6 feet deep. So if you're off just a little bit with your angle out here, up or down or left and right, back at the end of the hole, they could be only this far apart, or they could be this far apart. And if they're too close, one hole, when it fires, will set off the other one, which you don't want. The round might not pull properly. Or if they're too far apart, it'll leave a big stump of rock back there after you drill and fire it off, and then it's not pulled properly either. Yeah. So. Yeah. So then, Dale, if you come back here, maybe just watch. It might be a little slick right here. And then if you look back here, you can see our wired up coal cut. So you got 8 holes, I believe. There's 3 on the top, 3 on the bottom, and 2 in the center. So these 2 in the center are called our breaker holes, or reliever. This was drilled at a bit of an angle, and then the other ones are all straight. So the way the coal powder is timed, each blasting cap goes off, I believe it's 50 milliseconds apart, 30 milliseconds apart. So it's like every half a second a timer will go off. So you load them up, the coal blasting caps come in like 1 through 12 or 1 through 16 or 18, depending on the manufacturer. But the time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You'll put your 1s in your breaker holes so that they go off first, because you don't want all your powders to go off at once. If you just wired this all up straight and hit boom, then it would just go boom, all the coal would crack and kind of stay there. It wouldn't come out. So the coal has to have a place to go for it to be relieved. So these 2 go off first and put a big hole here in the center. Now when they go, next you'll fire your center one here, that'll go, then your out ones will go and kind of come in. And then you fire your bottom ones, and that kind of blows the whole pile out here where, you get to shovel it into the mine car. Or the coal drag will drag it into the buggy.
Or before, haven't we?
No, we have. Yeah. And then the rock holes are basically the same thing, except for you just have your burn here in the center. There's 5 holes. The center one doesn't get loaded with anything. That just gives the rock somewhere to crack into. The rock's a lot harder, so we're going to, you have your 1s and your 2s here in the center to pop all this out, and then you got your 4 holes here, and then you got your 3 on each side and 1 on bottom and top. And we use a lot more powder in this. Like I said, the couple of these will have a stick and a half in each one, or just 1 stick. In the rock, sometimes you put 2, 2.5 sticks in each hole, and that makes a big boom when you set that off.
How many ton of coal did we take out of when we did the drag?
It was about 35 for the escapeway and 28, I think, for the drag in the chamber. Yeah. And all of that actually stayed, all the coal for that actually stayed on property to fill the mine cars up with.
When you guys opened it first, doing your research, what did they have in here for display, like back in the day when they would have opened it? Was it just like a walkthrough, or would they have had like some equipment in here too?
Mannequins.
Mannequins.
Mannequins. That all we hear about is the mannequins. Yeah.
Like
That were in cages.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, the cool thing about this is, we closed in the 70s, so there's still a lot of people that are around that toured it in the 70s. We got a lot of people that come through here and say, I remember going through there as a kid. I remember walking through there, and where are the mannequins? There's, the mannequins still in there? I just tell them, no, we got live dummies in here now. But the mannequins are actually over at the Lackawanna Mine Tour. When they closed this, there was an old electric locomotive outside with the mine cars on display. And when they opened the mine tour, they took that and the mannequins that were in here over there.
Is that the one that's out front of the museum now over there?
No, it's down. It's in the mine.
Okay.
It's the one.
The display one down
The display
there?
one, right where the man car is. It's over the pit.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's an old GE. I think that's an old one. That thing's from like 1915 or 1912 or something.
Oh, wow.
That's an old one, yeah. Yeah, and then this ends up looping back around, but we got the mine car shoved back right there so the Whitcomb could fit in here, so you can't really walk it right now unless you absolutely had to, but we got more drills set up here. We show people coal drills, and this is actually the drill we use for the escapeway, that coal drill right there. And everything runs on compressed air. So we do drilling demonstrations for people too. We'll run some of this stuff. Not this, because this guy's really loud. You actually have earmuffs that clip on your hat when you run this thing. But
Chris, it was a great honor for you to do our podcast with us today.
Oh,
we
thanks,
look forward to doing
Thanks for having
more
us.
with you. Maybe we could have you on to do a segment about black damp, just to explain to people to stay out of the mines and
stay out of the mines.
stay alive, right?
That's right.
But it was great having you on the
All right, Eric,
podcast
thank you,
today.
Cody.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Is there anything you want to tell anybody if they want to come down for displays or get interested in possibly joining or helping the underground miners?
Yeah, I mean, we're always open to new members. If anyone wants to come down and hang out and chat with us and see what you think. We're going to have the Whitcomb here for, sometime probably into August. And then we'll see what happens after that. We got a couple of little surprises. But if you want to come down and check out the old Whitcomb, it'll be here.
And you guys are open every Saturday?
Yeah, every Saturday from 10 to 5.
Okay.
So we can do private things, for groups on schedule too.
Gotcha.
So,
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're
Thank you
welcome.
again for having us.
absolutely.
Thanks.
Bless.